Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more session on Azure Administrator 104. In this session, we'll discuss about Azure Backups and Azure Site Recovery Manager. Let us see the agenda first and then we'll continue with the discussion. So, this agenda for this session would be basically a discussion about Azure Backup, and we will see how to configure backup for virtual machines, and we will see how to restore files and how to restore a complete virtual machine, and we'll understand what is the site recovery on Azure, and we will do a hands-on exercise on that. And in this process we'll also understand what is difference between Azure Backup Service and Azure Site Recovery Service. There is a slight difference. Both are not the same. They are used for different use cases. Okay, now first let's start our discussion about Azure Backup. Now, when we say backup, the first thing, why do we need backup? Now, when Azure says that whatever data that you store, it will be stored for, you have high availability, high durability, etc. Right? So then, why do we need backup? Now, let's say even Azure says they have high available network, fault tolerant, etc. But let's say manually I have deleted a file. Now, if I don't take the backup of that file, it is very difficult for us to restore that file. All right, so to avoid some human errors, or let's say there is some ransomware attacks, that means there is some cyber attacks, and your data got deleted. Now if you want to restore the data, if you don't take a backup, it is not possible. So to make sure that your data is available, even there is some cyber attacks, even there is some manual errors, you have to constantly take a backup of your data. Why? Because no, data is basically like a gold for any business. Okay, the better you organize data, the better you generate information from the data, it is better for the business. So first of all, to make sure that your data is backed up and it is available whenever you want, even though there is some a deletion, etc., etc., right? We can do that with the help of Azure Backup. So when we do backup with Azure, it's not that we are going to restore a complete VM. We can also restore complete files. Now, even before we go further, let us see what all things that we can back up first. Okay, we can back up quite a lot of things. First one is that we can take a backup of a virtual machine which is there on premises. Now, Azure Backup, it is not only for the servers which is there or for virtual machines which is there on Azure cloud. You can also take a backup of virtual machines which are there on your on premises as well. But how to do that? You need to install a backup agents on the on premises server. Then Azure Backup Service will be able to take the backup of your virtual machines. And the second thing, we know that Azure virtual machines can be backed up, right? First, we can back up a Azure virtual machine which is there on premises. Second thing, we can take a backup of Azure VM, that means virtual machines which is there on the Azure cloud. And third one, Azure managed disks. That means the hard disk that is given to the servers, the that can also be take backup. And Azure file storage, we can also take a backup of Azure file storage, and we can take a backup of SQL servers in Azure VMs. Okay, and we can take SAP HANA database which is there in Azure virtual machines, PostgreSQL servers, and Azure blobs. Okay, not only that, the backup that you're going to take, we can also again configure replication to make sure that the backup is highly available. Like we can do a replication like LRS, ZRS, and GRS. Okay, so these are the things that you uh, basically take a backup of a Azure with the help of Azure Backup Service. Okay. Now, how can I take a backup? Let me go to my whiteboard and let me draw a little picture for us to understand better. Okay. Now, let us say I have a virtual machine. Okay. Let's say we have two virtual machines. Now, if I have to take backup, we need to create something called as a vault. Okay. This is another service on Azure to take Azure backup. Okay. This is basically called as a vault recovery services. Okay. With the help of this vault, we will be able to take the backups. Now, let's say if your virtual machine is there in, let's say, for example, in a region called as East US, and your vault should also be there in the same region, which is East US. Okay, then only you can take the backup of this virtual machine in this particular vault. Okay, your virtual machine will be backed. And we can also define the frequency, like how frequently your virtual machine has to be backed up. So what happens when we take a backup? Let's say on your virtual machine there are files. All these files will be backed up at the frequency that we define. Okay. So now for that, first of all, we need to create this vault recovery services and configure backup for this virtual machines. And then once we backup, so in the hands-on lab, what we're going to do, we're going to create this virtual machine. We are going to create this vault, configure backup for the server, and we will shut down this particular server, and we will restore the files from the vault and check whether the restore is working or not. All right. Let me shift to my Azure console. I mean, let me first make a note of steps of for the hands-on exercise. Okay. Steps. Okay. First step: create a virtual machine and add some files. Second, create a recovery service vault. Third, configure backup. Fifth, restore files. I mean, after configuring backup, we will restore files and restore a virtual machine. Okay. These are the steps for the Azure Backup Service. Now, first, let me go ahead and create a virtual machine and add some files in that. Let me go to my Azure portal here. Go to virtual machines. I will create a virtual machine here. Select option create a virtual machine. I'm going to create a Windows virtual machine because the how you restore files is little different for Windows and for Unix based operating systems. I'll show that for you. All right. Now let's say my subscription is pay as you go. I will create a resource group by name demo.rg. Okay. And I will create a virtual mission. And this virtual mission name is for demo VM for demo backup. Okay. And image I will use a Windows Server 2009 image, that is fine. And you see the security type, I will choose this security type as standard because if it is a trusted mission, we cannot configure site recovery manager. So I want to use this virtual machine both for backup as well as site recovery manager. Okay. And then I'll give username and password. Okay. Password of my choice. Okay, now let me go ahead and select the option review and create. So now I'm creating this virtual machine so that we can use it both for backup as well as site recovery manager. Select this option create here. The virtual machine is creating. This might take about a minute or two for the virtual machine to be created. You see the deployment is in progress now. Okay, that means the creation of virtual machine is started. Okay, this would take about a 10-15 seconds. Okay, it's going to be take another 10-15 seconds. Okay, the deployment is in progress. Let us wait for one more minute. Okay, the virtual machine name that we have given is VM for demo backup. It has created an IP. Okay, now the resource is created. Let me select option go to resource. Okay, take the public IP address. I will do a RDP into this particular server. Let's say RDP connect. Go to more choices, use a different account. I'll give the username which I have chosen, the password, select option OK. And now I'm connected to this particular, or I'll be connecting to this particular server. The server is starting up. Okay, it is creating user profiles inside the server. Let's give it a minute. Okay, let me go to the file explorer here. Let me go to the file explorer. Here, let's say you can go to this PC. Okay, go to, let's say, users. Okay, go to user Satish. We can create a file here. Okay, and this file is saved. Okay, now let me go to the server. So this is the, so what we did, we connected to a server, we created some file. Now there are two ways how you can do that. One, you can go to backup. Two ways how you can configure a backup. Let's say we can go to the backup here. Okay, directly it is saying that welcome to Azure Backup for Azure VMs. Now you see here recovery service vault. It is saying, do you want to select existing or do you want to select a new one? Let's say I want to select a new one. I am selecting an option create a new. What is the name of the backup vault? I'll say my new backup for demo, and it is part of resource group called as demo RG. Okay, and you see it is asking, do you want to do a once in a day backup, or and it should be ZRS. Okay, it should support trusted virtual machine. Same thing if it is enhanced, multiple backups in a day, and this operational tier will be there for 30 days. Okay, if you want to make changes, we can edit this particular policy. Okay, select option enable backup. It is validating whether we can take a backup or not. It will take about a minute or two for the yeah. You see the deployment is complete. It is initializing the deployment. So basically what it has done, it has done whether can I take a backup from this particular server or not. And it is saying that it can take a backup, and it is saying the deployment is in progress. So let us wait for a minute, and we will see again, by the time it takes a complete first backup, it will take long time, like about 30-40 minutes. But I already have created another server, and already created a backup for that particular server. I'll show that once the backup is created, how it will look like, and what all options that will be enabled. Now let us see the deployment. Let's wait for the deployment to finish. Once the deployment is finished, we'll be able to see that it has not it has just started the initial backup, and it will take time. Okay, let this deployment finish. Okay, the deployment in progress. I think this would take about another 30 seconds. Yeah, you see the resource deployment succeeded. Let me go to the resource. Okay, this is the service vault name I have given, right? My new backup for demo. Now under this, if I go to backup items, under this we can go to backup items. It is showing that there is only one virtual machine that backup is going on in this particular recovery service vault. Okay, now there is also something called as backup center. We will see that backup center also, that is a new addition. Now let's say go to this Azure virtual machine. Now you see it is saying that backup pre-check is finished. Okay, if I go into details, it will show this is the backup policy, this what is the service name, which subscription it is there in. Okay, and it is saying that initial backup is pending, it is in progress. So now that is the reason, if you see restore VM file recovery, I am not able to see anything because it is still doing a initial copy of backup. Okay, but I have another server. Let's say I have another let me go to my virtual machines. I have this server called as a new win, which I already took a backup of the server. Okay, let me go here, because that will take about 30 to 40 minutes for the initial backup to be finished. Now I'll show you once the backup is completed how it looks like. So this is under a different vault. This is under a vault called as my vault for demo. You see backup pre-check is passed. Last backup status is also successful. I'm in a USC timing. So now let's say I go to this particular vault. Okay, and you see under backup items, you need to go under protected items, backup items. Under backup items, there are two virtual machines the backup is going on. Let me select the virtual machines. Okay, you see for both of them, so one is a Unix based operating system, second one is a Windows based operating system. I'll show for both. Okay, now let's say new win is a Windows based operating system. You see there's an option called as view details. Let me go there. Now you see it is last backup is successful. Okay, now you see there are two snapshots. So if I want to recover this one, I can recover. If I want to recover this, I can recover this. So we need to mention from which point in time we need to recover, which snapshot that we need to recover while we are recovering. Okay, this is one day one snapshot. Sorry, I think you configured a snapshot with multiple snapshots in a day. That means multiple backups in a day. Now you see here on the top. Okay, now still this backup policy is still effective, so it is saying backup will automatically go on. Okay, if I say stop backup, it will stop the backup. If I say backup now, manually it will backup now. Now you see there are two options which are highlighted. One is called as file recovery, one is called as restore VM. What is this? Now let us say I don't want to recover the complete VM, I just want to recover one file. Then what I can do, instead of doing a complete restore of VM, I can do a only file recovery. Now once I click on the option file recovery, it will ask me select the restore point. I have two restore points. I can select the latest one, I can select the previous one. Let's say I'm selecting a previous recovery point and go to click on OK. Now once you do this, you'll get something called as download executable. That means this download executable will download on my laptop now. Now before that, let me show you something. Let's go to my drives here. Okay, I have a C drive, I have a E drive. Okay, two drives are there. One is called as C drive, one is called as E drive. Remember this. Now select this option called as download executable. Now when I selected this option download executable, it is saying that it is generating script and password. Once this is downloaded with the help of password, if we give that, those files will be mounted on my local system. Okay, we are taking a backup of the we are restoring a file, right? So out of all the files, whichever file that we want, we can take that. Okay, and once we finish restoring the files, we can unmount the disk. So now what is this meaning? There is a script that is getting downloaded to mount the hard disk of that virtual machine to my local laptop. From there, I can recover the files, but will not be able to see that file that I have created on that server, because this is a different server where I am restoring some files. Okay, but I'll show you that. You see now, but I'll show you that a new disk is mounted. Now you see your script file is ready to be download. Now let's say select option called as download. You know, there is a exe file, executable file got downloaded. Okay, now let me run this. Okay, it is asking please enter the password from the portal and press enter. Now you see this is the password, required password to run. Copy this password. Let me go here, paste the password, enter. Yes, it is asking the password, enter. Now it is saying it is basically now attaching the disk to my local system. Please press enter Y. Oh, I'll enter Y. It is saying previously also I have uh, mounted some sessions. So it is saying that please wait while we attach volumes of the recovery point. So now once that volume is attached, what we can do is that we can see the files that are there on that particular server. Okay, so basically we are recovering the files. Once we recover the files, we can click on unmount disks, so that the disk will be unmounted from our local laptop. Okay, now let's say let me show the my file explorer. You see now there is disk C, disk E. Now there is a disk D also that has come. This is nothing but the disk that is attached by the backup and recovery from the backup vault. Okay, normally it takes about 1 minute or 2 minutes for us to access the file. It is saying you don't have permissions to access this folder. Click continue permanently to get access. Okay, now you see Windows D, I can see all the files. Let me go to users. I'll have these folders, say continue, so you'll get permanently access to this. But the file I have created is not there in this particular server. Okay, so when you guys do the hands-on exercise, okay, create the folder, create files in this folder, and once you mount it, you can see your folders there. Okay, and then you can copy those folders. But ideally I'm doing this on a local server. In a real environment, sorry, I was doing on my local laptop, but in a real environment you will log into a server. From the server you will run this, so your data will be, you can recover the files to whichever server that you want to recover. Okay, now it is taking some time to show me all the files in this particular folder. Let us wait for a moment here. It may take about another 10 seconds to display because these files are there in Azure Backup. Okay, it is displaying all the files. For the first time, it will take time. But if you try to access from the if you try to access later, it will not take time. First time when you're accessing, it might take time when you mounted the disk. Usually, it will take about 3 to 4 minutes. All right, let's wait for another 15 seconds. Let's wait for another 10 seconds so that so now we'll be able to see all the folders, like how all the folders will be there in the my server. All the folders are there inside this user, right? So we'll be able to see all of them. But we saw previously there was only local disk C and disk E, but now there is disk D also, right? So in this disk, all these files are there. So wherever your files that you have stored in whichever folder, if you go there, you can see those particular files. That is basically how you do recover the files. Okay, now let me. Okay, let's wait for another 30 seconds. That's okay. And just check. It's about to finish reading the files. It usually takes about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, another 10 seconds. It's taking too much time. Let's do one thing. Meanwhile, let us also. Okay, let that let the display. Meanwhile, let me show you. Let's go to the Azure portal. Okay, we are trying to recover this Windows based file, right? Now let me open this in a new portal. Let me go to virtual machines. So let's say this demo backup what to virtual machine, which is a Linux based. Let me go to the backups here. Now when we are trying to do a backup of Windows virtual machine, we saw uh, an executable file, right? Here there will be a Python script that would be displayed. Let's say file restore. Okay, you can select the point in time. Let's say there are a lot of copies here. Let's say I am selecting this copy. You see now it has not showed as download executable. It has showed as download script. Now it is saying it is generating a password. Meanwhile, let me go here. Okay, let's say Windows It is taking crazily long time. Okay, now if you go to Windows, you see all the folders, right? Okay, on that particular server. Let's say go to program files, you will see program files. Okay, let's go to users. Okay, let it go down. Let me go here. It is still generating a script for the Windows based machine. Okay, now you see it has downloaded a download script is completed. Download script, download file is ready. Let me download. You see there's a file that has come. Now if I click on this, you will basically see it is a Python script. And now here you can clearly see, can I run this from a Windows machine? I cannot run this from a Windows machine. It should either run from a Ubuntu, CentOS. These are the supported operating systems, because that server is a the server that we have taken backup is a Unix based operating system. That is a Ubuntu operating system. So that is the reason you can only run that Python file from any of the Unix based operating system. Okay. Now let's go come here and check. Oh, come on. It's taking crazy time. Let us wait for a minute so that I can show the files. I'll not disturb this time so that let's see. Well, it is taking very long time. That's okay. Let me minimize this. Now, let me show you guys how to take a backup of a virtual machine itself. Now, if you see here, let me go to our virtual machine, which is a VM for demo backup, and let us go into backups. Okay, now here we will see the protected items. Okay, this is by service vault. Let me go there, and here we can see backup items. One virtual machine is backup. Let me select this. Okay, this is the one which the initial backup is happening. Now let me go to the backup which is already finished. Let me go to the service vault. Let me go to backup items. Two virtual machines are getting backed up. New win is the Windows virtual machine. Let me select this. You see there's an option called as a restore VM. Okay, previously what we did was file recovery. Now I'm doing a restore VM. Now select same thing like which is the snapshot that you want to recover. So now basically once we do a backup recovery, it creates snapshots. Select which is the snapshot that you want to recover. I'm selecting a first snapshot. Okay. I'm actually creating a new virtual machine from this snapshot. Okay, give a name. I'm giving new restore one in the same resource group. Virtual network, I'm selecting a VNet, and I'm selecting as first subnet. Storage location, I will select the storage location and select the option restore. So now basically a virtual, so previously what we did, I didn't restore a complete virtual machine, I just restored one file. But now I'm restoring a complete virtual machine. Okay, now this will also take a couple of minutes time. Okay, before that, let that restore. Now let us also understand what is a site recovery manager. Now if I go into this virtual machine, let's say the new virtual machine that we created, if I go under operations, there's something called as disaster recovery. Now what is the difference between a backup and a disaster recovery? Now let's say in a backup, what is happening? I'm taking a virtual machine. If there are files in this, I'm taking a backup in a vault. Okay, whenever I want, with this, let's say this is a backup, I can restore this in another server or in another mission. So it takes some time. But now let's say if this mission itself goes down, I want another mission which is readily available with the same data. So I can connect my application to this and my application can start working. In this case, we are restoring the data, but in a site recovery manager, I'm going to create another mission and we're going to have a synchronous connection. Whatever data which is getting here, it will be replicated here. Any point of time, if this goes down, I have this server which we can make that up and running immediately. Now, once this server, let's say this is backup, okay, this server is up now. What we can do, we can make this as a secondary server and promote this as primary. Okay, so initially this is primary, this is secondary. Okay, now once this has failed, we made this server as primary, and once this is up back, we made this as primary and we made this secondary, so that our application, it will be up and running almost all the time. So that is the use of a site recovery manager. Okay, now let us go ahead and configure site recovery manager. Let's say I went into disaster recovery. Now it is saying your primary, it is there in the east to west. So now it is saying that if you configure this, I'll also create another virtual machine in west US. Or else we can choose. Let's say I want the secondary one UK South. Okay. Or else I want the secondary in West India. So primary is here, secondary is here. It is very far, right? Let us choose something which is close enough so that replication could be very fast. Okay, so this is the primary, this is the secondary. Now let's say go to advanced settings. If I go to advanced settings, it will, so basically the second virtual mission, it requires a subscription, it requires a resource group, it requires a virtual network, right? So it is choosing all those options, and you see the replication settings. So when it has to replicate it, once in 24 hours retention policy, no, once in 24-hour retention policy is there. Okay, all these things I will leave it to default and select this option, start replication. I'm selecting this start replication option. Okay, now let us see, it will show that the replication, it is showing that enabling replication for VM1. That means for one virtual machine, it is enabling the replication, it will start the deployment, it will create the resource group. It has to do a whole lot of functions because it has to create all those resources. Okay, let me refresh this. You can see there will be a lot of let's go to this VM and see that disaster recovery. For this is the one which we have configured now. You see, this is the one which we created now. Yeah. So, so basically, it has started the replication. It has not completed the replication. Okay. It is saying enabling protection. It is not fully protected yet. Okay. Now let me go to a virtual machine which I have already replicated. Okay, this is the one which I have already replicated. Let me go there. Go to the disaster recovery. Okay, you say the status is protected. That means this is replicated. And on the top, you will see two options. One is failover, test failover. If I select this option, test failover, okay. So it is saying that source is east US, destination is west US. Select option test failover. Okay, I need to select in which network it should be there. Select test failover. So it is doing a failover. That means now the primary is whatever is the secondary will become as the primary. This is where we can come and do the failover. Starting the task to perform test failover for virtual machine for SRM. This is in progress. Okay, this may take about a minute or two. And you can also do a failover. So this is actual failover. The one which we are doing, that is a test failover, doing a testing. Now failover means it will actually make the West US as the primary one. So now we can select this option. What will happen? It will unplanned failure option is not allowed as another progress is there. So now the test failure is in progress, right? So it is not allowing us. Let us wait for a minute here. This will take about another minute or so. You see now it says that starting the task to perform test failure of virtual mission, it is successful. Okay. Now let us do a actual failover. To saying that whether okay, it is still in progress. Let me refresh this. We can also give time when it has to do a failover. Okay, because the other one has not completed it, so it is still doing it. It is not allowing to do a failover. So the test is successful. Okay. Now let me go to this SRM now. Let me go to the disaster recovery. Let's do a cleanup of test failover. Testing is complete. Delete test failover virtual machines. Okay, I'm saying the test is completed. So once the test is completed, this option cleanup test failover is enabled. Let it complete. It is saying starting the task to delete the test failover environment. This would also take about 30 seconds time. Now if you see, this operation is also successfully completed. Now let me refresh. Okay, now you see this failover option has been enabled again. Let me do a failover now. Okay, now you see the validation is successful. Now you see the source is east to west, the destination is west to west. Select this option, failover. Now once this is successful, now we should see the, let's go to this virtual machine. I think for this now we are doing, see the overview, the location is east to west, right? Now let us see after failover. Failover is in progress. This will take about a minute or two. Now if you see, starting the task to perform unplanned failover virtual mission successfully completed. So let me refresh this. It says status failover completed. Let me go here, refresh this. Let me do a commit. Do a commit now. We are committing the failover. Okay, this operation is in progress now. Okay, failover commit is successful. Okay, now if I go to this virtual machine, you see this virtual machine is stopped in state. Okay, stopped and deallocated. Let me start it. Saying starting virtual machine. The virtual machine is starting. Okay, the failover is committed. Okay, now let me go to these virtual machines. Now, if you look, you see here, there is two virtual machines by name SRM. Okay, now we have did a failover. Now you see there is a new SRM here, and you see this is from west to west. Okay, that is how we can fail over and fail back the virtual machines. All right. Well, that's how you take a backup, and that's how you configure a site recovery manager for a virtual machines. Okay. So this exercises basically it will take long time for you guys to do because I have actually created this uh, backups upfront, so it has become faster. Normally, taking a backup will take about 40 minutes time, the initial snapshot, and SRM will take about 30 minutes because that is the reason I have already taken before and demonstrated to you guys. Okay, so you do this hands-on exercise, and it'll be clear for you guys how to take a backup of a file, how to take a backup of a virtual machine, and how to create a site recovery manager by for virtual machines by using Azure Site Recovery Manager, and we can do a failover and failback. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for joining the session. See you guys in the next session. Take care.